Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to speak on this third reading of the sentencing and parole law reform. After listening to the previous speaker, perhaps a question I can pose to him as he posed to us in terms of the result in terms of attitude that the son of a prisoner who was sentenced to life may feel. Perhaps it should be also asked, what about the effect on the son of the man that he may have killed? And I think that we need to understand that this bill is about victims. This bill is about the protection of our society. Mr. Speaker, there's been a growing tide of concern at the rising rate of violent offending in New Zealand and objection to the length of sentences given to serious repeat offenders for some time. Almost 92% of the voters in the 1999 referendum voted in the affirmative for the proposition that restitution and more support be provided for victims of crime and that violent offenders be subject to longer prison sentences. This bill, Mr. Speaker, has 94% of the 1,118 submissions made to the Select Committee supporting this bill. New Zealanders want sentencing to be tougher for the worst repeat violent offenders. I acknowledge the issues that the previous speaker raised about addressing the issues of rehabilitation. This bill does not pretend to address those issues. This bill is about sending a signal to the people of New Zealand that this government, in association with the ACT Party, are serious about their concerns about violent offending and are prepared to make sentences tougher and are prepared to ensure that repeat violent offenders do not get out on parole and thereby have the opportunity to repeat their crimes. The 1999 referendum was instigated by Norm Withers after his elderly mother was brutally attacked in Christchurch. The offender had 56 previous offences but was released early on parole, which gave him the opportunity to attack his mother. Since that time, we have had numerous cases of murders committed by offenders on parole. William Bell and Graham Burton are the most publicised cases, both with over 100 convictions, both convicted killers who committed murder while on parole. When this reform bill was first proposed, the New Zealand Herald ran a poll because they believed that such a toughening of the law would damage our international reputation. I read through some of those comments, Mr. Speaker, to see what people on the streets of New Zealand thought. One particular comment caught my attention amongst the many. It was written by a person who identified themselves as a Kiwi. At 9:30 a.m. on Friday the 20th of March 2009, they said, "It's shocking. Every time some right steps are planned to be taken to fix the crime situation, some idiotic thinking tries to stop it in the name of human rights, as if all the human rights are meant only for criminals." I think that comment puts it well. Our own Prime Minister said some years ago, where there is a balancing of rights to be done between criminals and victims, we take a side. That side will be on the side of the victim. This bill is about supporting victims. This bill is about addressing the issues of repeat violent and offending and assuring, Mr. Speaker, that that does not happen to the extent it has in the past. The purpose and the principles guiding the correction system as spelt out in the Correction Act 2004 are this: to improve public safety and contribute to the maintenance of a just society. I'd like to finish my speech, Mr. Speaker, with an excellent quote from our Minister of Corrections, the Honourable Judith Collins, who said recently, "None of the 41 qualifying offences for 3 strikes is relatively minor. All involve serious violence or sexual offending, and all have a maximum penalty of at least 7 years of prison. Perhaps more importantly, they all have a long and profound impact on the lives of victims." In defending the rights of offenders, critics of 3 strikes downplay the goal of the legislation, which is to protect the public from criminals who have a track record of serious offending. The bill focuses on the repeat nature of offending rather than just the offence itself. An offender who has committed 3 serious offences will, in all likelihood, go on to commit a 4th. She says by imposing maximum sentences without parole, 3 strikes gives offenders much less opportunity to do so because they will be in prison. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Carmel Sepuloni.
Mr.